But these kids and all the people, it's kind of got to let them have their day in the sun. Really proud of our team. It's so difficult going back-to-back. League race we had, the tournament that we had to endure. But if you look at, you know, some people said we're the team that can't shoot straight. We shot 58% in the semis and 59% in the championship. So, it was quite a championship game. It was, you know, the first half I thought we played just unbelievable for the setting and what was at stake. And our kids really came ready to play and played like champions. Then you got to give VCU credit. They really came at us, forced a number of turnovers, and we got very physical. And then I think, again, a credit to our guys to be able to, you know, absorb that is a word that we use, and we absorbed their run, and then we're able to finish the job. So fortunately, we had a little wiggle room with as well as we played. And then fortunately we have enough experience, enough talent, and enough will to, you know, get to the finish line and be able to say that the rare occurrence of being the back-to-back champions of the CAA.
I open up for questions. Raise your hand.
Blaine, you touched right away on just how difficult it is to go back-to-back, and it's also tougher than people think as your way to be picked to win and then win it, and you've done that 2 years in a row. I mean, that's right there. What you've just done is a lot tougher than anybody would ever realize.
I think what has happened is our current group has learned a little bit from prior groups, and yet they've learned their own lessons in their own group. And we've learned to be comfortable with the fact that we have a strong program, and we have an unspoken expectation that we are competitive for conference titles in a national basis. So we really don't talk about that much. But I do think, you know, those people that, you know, were picked 9th and finished 4th, and everybody says, oh, great year. You know, you don't know what it's like to, you know, until you have to show up every night and they're trying to out-rebound you. They show up every night and they're trying to get one of their best wins of the year. And it really, you know, measures, you know, a level of excellence and expectation where the effort and the psyche and the preparation and the competitive passion, you know, has to rise out of you. And I think our kids are comfortable with that. I told the kids this morning, I said, I saw the locker room after we won the CIT championship 2 years ago. And, you know, I looked around and saw when we won at Bradley in a really tough circumstance. And I saw how much it meant to them. And I just, in my own world, said, you know, these guys aren't done. There's some more championships out there for this bunch. And after that, we won the CAA last year. We won the Paradise Jam this year with the great field, and then of course here. So, you know, when I sensed then that there was a lot more left in the reservoir with this group.
Blaine, you opened with the gang that can't shoot straight, but you guys have been on quite an offensive roll since the George Mason game, probably far north of a point per possession. Did you make any offensive adjustments after that Mason game to get you on this roll?
Well, I think what we did is when we were going through a stretch there where the ball wasn't going in, we had to kind of sharpen our pencil and our execution had to get better, our shot selection had to get better, you know, just kind of our understanding of everything that was going to make us tick had to get a little bit better. And then when all of a sudden guys started, you know, getting a little bit better at making the open shots, making the plays when they were available, all of a sudden the percentages buoyed up. I don't think we did a whole bunch different in terms of the players that were playing, things we're asking them to do. We just did everything better, and then obviously we're getting better results. But we never ever, you know, wavered in that. You know, with us, it starts with defense and it ends with offense, and in between, you know, we're gonna board the ball, and not with the best of them. We are the best of them.
Blaine, when the game got kind of grabby there, when they were making their run, you had a couple timeouts. What's the way to respond to that? What were you trying to message? You were trying to get across?
Well, I kind of warned the guys that the nature of a game like this, with what's at stake, when you get a large margin, what's going to happen? You know, it's human nature for the game to be where maybe the benefit of a few plays kind of twist their direction. They kind of are going to come at you and see, you know, how far they can go with, you know, their pressure and with the physical nature of the game, see if they can't cause something to happen. They're going to really shoot the ball with reckless abandon because there's nothing to lose and everything to gain. And so we just kind of discussed that what we thought was going to happen. They were going to try to make a run at us. We didn't think that we would have to endure quite as much as we did. But, you know, at one point, we finally got a couple plays made. We finally got a couple stops, finally got a couple rebounds, and we turned what could have been, you know, a last possession game into something where we were never headed, and we were typically down the stretch ahead a basket or two for the most part.
Can any of you players talk about what you were thinking during that run when I think it was like 26-9, they went from 18 down to within a point? Can you guys talk about kind of what you were thinking?
Mostly, I was thinking just relax our minds. I mean, we was going to make mistakes, so we knew they was going to come on a run. They're a good team, and it's a championship game. They have to come on a run. So, I mean, just really relax our minds, calm down, and get ready to punch them back.
To add to that, we've been in like some of like the worst situations, some of the best situations. Like with this group, like we've been through it all. So you know, like with a crowd like that, and with the type of game they play, a lot of energy. You know, once the crowd got into it, you know, we knew they was gonna make a big punch, and it just shows our resiliency as a unit, just to stay strong and keep fighting.
I felt like, you know, that was one of their runs. You know, VCU are a good team, you know, and basketball is a game of runs, and I felt like at that point in time that was one of their runs, and all we had to do was just settle down and slow our brains down.
One of the things that I would like to hold on to on the positive side of our ledger is certainly VCU deserves a lot of credit for making that run, but the story of the game is the first half and the start of the second half from our standpoint, where we put them in a deep enough hole that even with a great run, it wasn't enough to head us.
Frank, a big part of that run was Skeen got involved after some foul trouble early. Can you just talk about your battle down in the post? And you made some shots over him, he made some over you, you made more.
I figured he would start being more aggressive. I mean, we were switching up defenses, so I wasn't really guarding him most of the time. When I was closing out on him, I tried to contest his jump shots. I mean, he's a good player. Sometimes the ball bounces for you in those situations. I mean, he got some and ones and got some putbacks and all that. So, I mean, we came out with the win, so.
One of the things I would mention is they do have some experience in that Rodriguez, Skeen, Burgess, you know, Nixon, some of those guys have been around a certain measure of success, so it's not like they were, you know, just going to show up at the championship game. And then, of course, I think they played well this tournament. The first half obviously wasn't their shining moment, but I think they were really, their spirits were very buoyed by the crowd. And probably some confidence from some past performances, maybe the first game or two in the tournament. But I really thought we had them, you know, kind of doing some soul searching for the first, I don't know, 25 minutes of the game as to whether they were going to be able to play with us. And then as it got really, I think one of you guys termed grabby, you know, as it got really physical, I'd like to have handled that better, but there was some unbelievable exchanges down there when, you know, it was really demanding of you mentally and physically to stand up to what was going on.
For the players, what's it like? Can you talk about what the emotions like to be the two-time defending CAA tournament champions?
I felt like, you know, from day one we expected to be here, you know, and we worked hard and we prepared ourselves for this situation, and we just worked hard and we expected to be here.
Yeah, it started when we lost to Baylor last year. We sat in our locker room with a sour taste in our mouth. You know, we just wanted to do the same thing we did last year, but I mean, once we stepped foot in this NCAA tournament, we got our goals set a little bit higher because, you know, we know what it takes to get there. We know, I mean, what we got to deal with. So I mean, it feels great. You know, 2 is always better than 1. You know, but I mean, it just shows like our toughness and stuff. Like getting up at 6 in the morning, lifting weights, working out. You hate to do it while you're doing it, but it pays off. It sure does pays off.
Blaine, you come into halftime, and I believe the rebounding margin was like 20-6. You guys were all over them on the glass. As a coach, what's the gratification to see numbers like that, and the way that kind of propelled you to that advantage that you were able to have that, you know, that margin, and it was big enough in the second half?
Well, there was I mean, to be honest with you, I was a little bit surprised because I expected an absolute war on the boards. But I think it's a credit to our guys that they came out and established themselves in such a way on both ends of the floor and on the glass. And to be in this circumstance and have a double-digit lead at halftime, you know, the kids really did a great job. But they broke even with us on the glass the second half. I think to be plus 15 for the night, you know, I'd have taken that going in. But when I looked, I didn't even tell the guys what the margin was. I says, you know, we're up on the glass, but the second half will determine where we end with this thing, and then it's going to be important on the glass. And we broke basically even on the glass second half. So it was not for the faint of heart at all.
For the players, how do you think being in the tournament last year is going to help you this year, having that familiarity?
Basically experience. I mean, last year was our first time getting to that stage, and we were just out there just really playing, seeing what we could do with it. Now we got expectations, and we going there with the mindset that we here to do work, so let's handle our business.
Yeah, definitely. Hit around the head. The experience goes a long ways. You know, you got all these young players and young teams, you know, making runs in the conference, you know, in the regular season. But like when the chips hit the fan, you know, experience. Like I always say, brains over brawn. You know, it's one term I always stuck with. You know, I mean, if I can outsmart you, I'm gonna have my way with you all night.
The tournament, if you're looking forward, I think you should look at the league in general. Obviously, we're going to have multiple people in the NC2A tournament. I'd like to think that the way VCU performed in this tournament, that they could be considered as an NC2A team. There's just some real blabbermouths on the bubble that I get tired of listening to. I heard a guy when I'm in the West in Montana, we used to say "big hat, no horse." Guy acted like he had a big farm and never ridden a horse in his life. There's some guys, I won't say their names, but I think you know who they are. And I'd like to think that VCU and even Hofstra in some respects, but there'll be 6 teams from our league in postseason play. I'd love to see somebody in the CIT. We won that championship a few years back. I'd love to see somebody in the CBI. VCU won that championship last year. We certainly should have somebody in the NIT, maybe more than one. And we've been to the finals of that. That's a neat experience. And of course, multiple teams in the NC2A was what we talked about at Media Day some 6 months ago. So it's been a banner year for the CAA, and we will proudly go forward representing Old Dominion and the CAA.